Hello and welcome. If you've ever wanted to write your life story or help someone do theirs, this is the place to be. Look, most people just don't have the time or know where to start. But by the end of this video, you'll have a simple framework to use, know how to capture memories fast and make sure they don't disappear, buried in a folder somewhere or on a USB stick that gets tossed into a drawer never to be seen again. I'll show you a way of storing memories safely and so they come together to produce a life story that truly wows, that you can keep adding to throughout your life. The best part is you don't need to be a writer or the least bit techie or spend hours doing it. You can start easily with just one memory at a time. So here's what we'll cover together today. First, a quick 5-question quiz. Look, you can make a mental note of your answers or jot them down or pause this video, scroll down and use the drop downs below. Look, there are no right or wrong answers, just a chance to see if you thought about other things to consider when writing your life story. I'll then share a little of my own story, followed by an easy way to structure your story with summary memories, memory themes and emotional layers. And we'll chat about why it's important to include voice and video as well as words and images. Finally, I'll share a very simple next step if you'd like some help getting started, okay? So, what's been stopping you writing your life story up until now, and what do you need to think about? Question 1, the pen and paper problem. Have you ever, A, started with a blank page and weren't sure where to begin? Or B, bought a lovely notebook and kept crossing things out? Or C, you're not so good at handwriting and nobody can read it anyway? And you might be all of these. If you can relate to any of them, you're definitely not alone. Because once a page starts looking messy, is full of crossed out words, you lose motivation and then people just give up. But of course, there's a digital way of capturing memories. This means that you can review, edit, refine, and keep going without worrying about mistakes. No rubbing things out, no starting again. Aha! Though then comes the digital dilemma. Now, maybe you tried using a computer and found A, typing's not your thing, or B, adding photos was a formatting nightmare. And as for voice and videos, forget it. Or C, files are hard to track. And if you're helping someone, especially if one uses Android and the other uses Apple, memories and versions all get muddled up. Well, here's the thing. Word documents and Google Docs are great for essays and writing reports, but they were never really designed for storytelling. The moment you start adding photos or videos, things get complicated really quickly. And yes, those are exactly the things that make a life story come alive, because memories aren't just words. They include pictures, voices, sound, movement, expressions, and gestures. So we want to add all these types of media, including the memories still on old slides, tapes and films don't we? And that leads us nicely on to question 3. Our photos and video piles. Do you A, have loads of printed photos fading somewhere? Or B, digital images scattered across devices, storage or social media? Or C, lots of tapes and films? Or D, a combination of all of these? Look, let's be honest, will anyone really sit down one day and go through those boxes of faded photos or scroll through thousands of your images and endless video clips? Probably not. The real magic comes from curating the highlights, the moments that capture you, who you are, your story, the ones that make people say, I remember that, or now I understand. And then we have to think about our timeline and structure. Question 4. Do you A, start at the beginning and get lost along the way? B, have used AI, but it doesn't really sound like you. Or C, wasn't sure what memories mattered. Maybe it's D, all of these, eh? Okay, it's a challenge to work out how to structure a life story because there are so many twists and turns in our lives, and often memories are kind of intertwined. And we have to remember artificial intelligence can't truly recreate our lived experiences, our tone of voice, our humour, our personality, our heart and soul. That's why having a simple structure and a way to include voice or video recordings is so powerful. They capture the laughter, the nuances, the little human signals, and that's what gives the life story its real wow factor. The vision. Who are you writing this story for? Because that really affects what you're prepared to capture. Is it for A, your partner, children or someone close? Or B, more of a keepsake for family and friends? Or C, you're wanting a public version for those to come, like grandchildren say? You may want different versions, even writing some memories just for you, so you can help to reflect on parts of your life to understand yourself more. Writing your life story can be quite painful, as well as joyful and cathartic at times. The real gift is creating a life story that's authentic, where parts can be privately cherished, that can be shared a little wider, or that's for everyone, that tells your story for all to see. So when we step back and look at all of these questions, a bigger question starts to appear. What actually happens if nothing changes? Because most people assume they'll get around to writing life stories one day when they have more time. But memories don't wait. Photos pile up, videos multiply, and the stories that give them meaning just stay in people's heads. And that leads us to an even harder truth. Life has a habit of changing when we least expect it. What actually happens if we don't make time to capture our story or those of a loved one? Suddenly, it becomes too late. And this became very real for me because I nearly didn't get the chance to tell my own story. In 2014, I nearly died from septic shock. My colon was infected from a superbug, and my blood pressure and pulse were so low I wouldn't have survived an operation to remove it. When I realised I didn't have long, I looked into the nurse's eyes and thought, I've left everything in a mess. My husband wouldn't be able to find a thing. I haven't written my life story. And worse still, I hadn't left messages for my kids. Luckily, they pumped me full of antibiotics, and I'm here to tell the tale. But it could have been very different. Back in 1990, my dad was diagnosed with asbestosis. I was lucky enough to be single at the time, so I went back and lived with mum and dad. And up until the time he died, he told me lots of memories. Unfortunately, I didn't write those down. And over the course of time, those memories have faded and the detail of his story has been lost. In 2010, my mum died and I didn't really know the detail of her life story. She grew up in the war years and I wondered how that affected her and her relationship with me, particularly as I've grown older. Unfortunately, obviously, I can't go back and ask her now. And my aunt Frida died a few years ago. She was really good at telling stories on Facebook, and we all loved her memories and the photographs she shared. Unfortunately, 2 years after she died, her account got hacked and had to be deleted, and we lost all of those memories. So these are the reasons why I find it really important to capture life stories. I'm sorry if those stories may have triggered anything for you. So, what if there was a quick, easy way to capture a life story? A way that didn't feel like writing a book and didn't take hours, because When people talk about this, the same word keeps cropping up again and again. They don't have time. We never seem to have enough time, do we? So let's start by understanding what we actually mean when we say a life story. A memoir is a particular event in your life that has a lot of emotion usually, like sailing around the world on a yacht. You might write a memoir about it. A bibliography is a list of sources or references at the end of a piece of work, like an article or an assignment. A biography is usually written in the third person about somebody by someone else, and an autobiography is something that we write ourselves, and probably the most akin to a life story. So we have developed what I like to call the WOW framework. That is, we've broken it down into the when, the life stages, the what, the memory themes, and the why, the emotional layers. And then we think about how we're going to capture words, images, voice, and video. When, the 5 stages of our life. Very simply, we just break it down into these and fit our memories within each of these 5 chapters. I like that. I've got this era, don't you? So what do we put in each chapter? It's really important that we do a summary memory where there's nothing sensitive. It just gives an overview of that particular stage of our life, the important people in our lives, the places that we lived or worked at, the era, the backdrop of what was happening. So the music, what was happening in the news. I mean, I remember in the 60s being pulled downstairs by my dad to watch the moon landings on our little square black and white TV set with the stick legs, and Dad holding the aerial up and trying to get the best signal. Do you remember that, if you were born in the 60s? And then how all of those things affected you. And then in each of your life stages, you can add different memories, and each can have a different theme. Not only just event type memories, but things that explore what's been happening to us, our reflections, personal moments, relationships, the changes in our spiritual beliefs. They are really important, so they all come together in our life story. And for each of these, we put the why, the emotional layers, the joys and celebrations, our hopes and wishes from what we've learned for people that might come after us, like our children and grandchildren, love and connections, and our identities and belief. What makes us tick? What makes us us? What makes you you? Now, the how is really important, because if we just write our life story, we lose so much, because words lose tone and expression and so much more. So if we capture our life story with voice and video, we capture tone, pauses and expression, the real human signals. Because body language and tone of voice conveys so much of our messages. The first research was done by Dr. back in the late 60s, and it was published in a book called Silent Messages in 1971. And he concluded that body language counted for 55% of conveying the message, and the tone of voice 38%. Staggering, hey? Bringing it all together, a life story that wows has words to give it meaning, images to spark memories, voice and video to create that real connection. And we really want to make sure that we include old photos, slides, VHS tapes, and films, so nothing is lost. You can choose who can see it and when they can see it. Capturing memories quickly in your authentic voice. So there are some really easy ways which we give you step-by-step guidance for in the Story Starter Kit, particularly using voice-to-text conversions, which makes capturing a memory very quick. And now let's look at how we can organize and store memories safely if you want an easy way compared to using folders or a USB stick, and how we can share each memory with different people if you want multiple versions of your life story, depending on who's reading it. So my LifeJars Secure Vault has the memory jars, and you guessed it, there are 5 covering the stages of your life. So people ask, is my life story safe in my LifeJars? And we say yes. We've developed some encryption technology that we've had patented, so everything's protected way into the future when quantum computing arrives, and we have data residency here in the UK. Let's take a look.
To get to the memory jars, either click on the Life Journal or click on the jar icon, then Memory Jars. You then access the 5 memory jars by clicking on the boxes along the top. You can see the summary memory on the left-hand side and the key memory templates on the right-hand side change. If you are under 65, you'll only get 4 jars as you're not old enough for the later life jar. Either edit the memory templates or create a new memory from the gold button, and a pop-up screen appears to capture the memory. The secret keeper sets who you want to share this memory with. The time lock, when, in life, or legacy, or both. You can add up to 10 media files for each memory. That is images, documents in PDF format, voice notes and video clips. On the remembrance wall, you'll see legacy profiles, some transitioned from a life profile, others created as a legacy from the very beginning. This is Suke's father's legacy. Here is the resting pin which shows the location of his grave. A life story can be viewed online or printed as a book. Each person sees a different version depending on the secret keeper and time lock settings for each memory. Family and friends can add tributes. The start of Mick's story shows his childhood summary memory. My LifeJars captures both people and pet, life and legacy profiles, and you can add all media types, words, photos, voice notes and video clips.
So at this point, people are often thinking, what do I actually need to get started on my life story so I don't keep putting it off? Well, you don't need lots of time or to be a great writer. You don't need to have any special equipment. A smartphone will do, and you don't need to be the least bit techy. You really don't. In fact, there are just 3 simple things that make it so much easier. Firstly, having clear prompts. This stops the blank page problem, because when someone asks a question like, what was your favourite family holiday and why? What sounds came into your head when you imagined yourself there again? Or who influenced you the most growing up? Suddenly, the memories start to flow. Secondly, having guidance, just easy to follow tips that show you how to capture memories quickly. So it's not hours of writing, unless you want to, of course, but it removes that it's going to take forever feeling. It just takes a few minutes to record a thought, a voice note, or even a short video. And thirdly, having somewhere safe to keep it all and organize memories easily really helps. A place where your memories, photos, your voice recordings and videos can live together and are easy to share with whoever you want. Because once those 3 things are in place, something interesting happens. Starting your life story no longer feels overwhelming. It just becomes one memory at a time. And that's exactly why we created something called the Life Story Starter Kit. It makes beginning your life story really easy and enjoyable. Inside the kit, you'll find 52 inspiring memory prompts. Each one helps unlock a moment from your life, one memory at a time, covering the key chapters of your life and the memory themes that we looked at earlier. You'll also find simple how-to guidance showing you how to capture memories quickly, which gives you confidence to use not just words, but voice recordings and short videos. All you need is your smartphone. And if you'd like somewhere organized to keep everything together, there's also an optional private My LifeJars vault. You can use it or store your memories anywhere you prefer. Normally, the Life Story Starter Kit is £37 on our website, but today, for you here, it's £27. I just want to leave you with one simple thought. Many people believe writing their life story is a huge project, something that would take months or even years, but it doesn't have to start that way. If you don't think you have time, start small, just 10 minutes for one memory. So if this feels important to you, the Life Stories Starter Kit is ready whenever you are. Because life stories really do matter for the people who love us now and when we're no longer around. The people who want to hear what we've learned and what matters most to us. And when those memories are captured, they become something powerful. A story that can be shared, remembered, and passed on. The important thing is just starting